Well, hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and thank you for joining us on The Headline. I'm Brandon Waltons, the managing editor of Texas Scorecard, and this was a big week at the Texas Capitol. That's right, the 87th legislative session finally kicked off, and what a week it's been. There's already been some fireworks. I actually spoke with a couple new freshmen, Bryan, Slaton, and Cason, yesterday. We're going to have that interview for you in just a couple minutes. But first, it's important to note, the legislature, of course, meets for 140 days. They gavelled in on Tuesday. The first thing the House did was elect officially Dade Phelan to serve as a new Speaker of the House. Now, Dade Phelan had previously mentioned that he's going to appoint Democrats to serve as the chairs of committees, something that conservatives have had an issue with for a while. And so ultimately he gained 2 votes against him. That came from Representative Bryan Slaton and Representative Cason. Now, these 2 members also didn't stop there. They went during the House rules debate, the rules that are going to govern how the House conducts business over the next 140 days. They also went out to the floor immediately with some pretty strong amendments. I spoke with Representative Slaton and Representative Cason yesterday when they got off the floor. Here's the interview. Check it out. Representative Slaton, Representative Cason, thank you so much for joining us right now. Obviously, the legislative session has just kicked off. We're a few days in, and 2 freshman legislators already making waves. Guys, how has it been entering the building right now and getting involved in the legislative process as freshmen?
It's been a lot of fun. I mean, we have a great opportunity. I mean, we're elected to represent our district, and we're doing that. And what's great is we're not really, working together. We both believe a lot alike, so it's really easy. We just have our own convictions, and we're rowing in the same stream here, So
you both kind of stood out on the first day, one of the first votes, as we know, for Speaker of the House. Both of you not voting yes for the Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, and both having some similar reasons for doing so. Why did you decide to vote no for the Speaker?
Well, as it was mentioned, I believe, by Representative Biederman at the back mic today, it's not always been a tradition to share power with the minority party. And as everyone probably has seen, a number of weeks ago, we co-authored, Bryan, myself, and Representative Tenderholt and Biederman, a letter to Speaker Phelan and simply asked him what his intentions were going to be relative to assigning committee chairs to the Democrats, and chairs that indeed would have enabled the minority party that did not earn the right, to control our legislation, to kill it. Okay. The GOP priorities are very important to me, and I believe to Bryan as well. And that's what we're down here for, is to advance conservative Republican priorities. And so, with that being said, we didn't get any type of response. A week after no response, we decided to share our open letter with the public. And it was brought to my attention that on Monday, the Speaker gave an interview with another group.
Yes.
And indicated that he would indeed appoint Democrats to chairs. So with that being said, and not getting the assurances that we were asking for to make sure our priorities were not obstructed, I personally felt like I had no other option but to vote no.
Yeah.
Similar answer as well with you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if one person has the power as chairman to kill a bill by just letting it collect dust, that's a problem, especially whenever the voters of Texas send a majority of Republicans to pass policy into law. And when voters do that, and then we give away power to a chairman, and one person, they don't have to get 75 other people to agree with him. They can just kill it. It's a problem. And that's where I came down to my decision to vote no, as I felt like we were already kind of behind the ball and already in trouble Because if your priorities, it depends on what they are, right? Some legislators come here and they have their agenda, what they want to do. Some people would say, oh, I have my agenda for my district. Others say, well, I have several. I have, yes, my agenda, I have my district, but one of the most important things to me is the legislative priorities. I think Republican elected officials need to say a huge thank you to all the people who continually show up and vote for us and keep us in power.
That's right.
By passing things that they care about. That's where I'm at. And when I don't think we can do it, I just have a hard time supporting it. Even though he's the only option, I just felt like it was important to say, if we're already going to set us up to fail, then I can't support that.
You know, the voters sent us here to get some things accomplished, and I heard from many people via text, via email, telephone calls. The optics for them, and rightly so, were that by supporting with a yes vote, we would be empowering him. You know, elections have consequences, and you know, to share that power with a minority party that invested over $100 million in this state to try and flip this house. I'm sorry, I can't agree with a lot of opinions that say, hey, you know, we're not the same as DC. You know, just as I, you know, wanted to trust but verify with the speaker, I, you know, would have to verify that as well.
Right. Speaking of appointing Democrats to chair committees, we've seen this happen, as you mentioned, to kill key conservative legislation in the past, be it constitutional carry or pro-life legislation. Rules debate today, Thursday, as we're speaking. Both of you representatives offered some pretty important rules amendments that were considered by the body and ultimately voted down. And Representative Slaton, you had one that made waves, a series of amendments that would have done exactly that, prevented Democrats from chairing key legislative committees. And yet, you know, what was the response from Republicans on that?
They weren't very happy. But, I mean, for what it's worth, I think we did better than I thought we were going to do. They got a lot of no votes organized. I actually thought it was going to be lower. So in a way, we did better than I thought. So I'm not. Of course, I wish more Republicans would be excited about putting Republicans in a position to pass Republican policy. That's what I would like, but they don't see it that way, you know, it's very unfortunate. My concern is once again for the voters, right? I care about the voters. I care about the people that sent me here. And when you see, you take this pill today that happened on the House floor, mixed with what's been going on the federal level, how do we exactly encourage people to vote for Republicans in the future? Right. That's the tough thing, because they want somebody that's going to fight for us. That's what they're begging for all over. And it was a tough thing. I kind of expected it the way it went out, but yeah.
One of the things I want to point out, you know, politics is about compromise mostly, but regarding appointing Democrats to committee chairs, I think I personally could have supported that if those chairs were committees that would not impede GOP priority legislation. You know, commitments could be given that would indicate that. You know, if they want to continue this short tradition of sharing power, when you're in positions like Bryan and I are in, you know, we don't really have much say about that. But from a personal standpoint, you know, I've had a lot of feedback and comments. I say a few comments about, so you think nobody from the Democrat side. Well, again, I repeat, elections have consequences, but in the spirit of bipartisanship, if that's so important, just make sure these committees can't kill our important GOP priorities.
You had a couple of rules amendments again that were ultimately voted down today by the body that would have dealt with actually increasing transparency in the process. Explain that a little bit.
Well, again, the ability for Texans to come in and videotape, Facebook, whatever, with their phones and things like that, and also restricting attendance to committee meetings. When I ran for this seat, I told everybody the two words that were front and center of my campaign were transparency and accountability, and I meant it. And I think our actions today back that up and proved that I'm very serious about everything that goes on in this House, that it's transparent and accountable. We have to be accountable to the people that sent us here, and the work we do has to be transparent so that the people of Texas that own this House can understand and see what's going on in that room.
Last question for both of y'all. We've got 130 some odd days left in the session. What sort of priorities legislation are you looking to file in the coming days, coming weeks that you're going to try to pursue during the session?
Well, there'll be I think one in particular that I'm thinking of is election integrity. I think there's going to be some legislation related to property tax again and education. We're still in the formulative period, and putting things together. I know, Bryan and I'll probably be working on some things together as well as some of the other members. I know there's some members that are working on legislation that, we can support. But, one of the most important things for me is that we do focus on the GOP priorities. I mean, look, let's face it. We have men and women in our party that have invested thousands of hours to create our Republican Party platform. And the issues that will be important this session, redistricting and the budget, of course, during this pandemic will be challenging, but we need to focus on these priorities and not kick the can down the road any longer. So that's important to the people. And I know Bryan and myself and a few other colleagues are here to try and affect change in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably no different than what we've done today. You wanted to increase transparency and give honor to the people, let them be there. I wanted to give honor to the voters of Texas. If they want Republican voters, let them have Republican leaders. And so I'd like to get a vote on all of the legislative priorities. I'd like to have the opportunity to get them passed into law, or at least pass the House. I mean, can't control the other chamber, but I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us provide actual, real property tax relief. People are being taxed out of their home. It's the number one issue I've heard. We owe it to the people to fix it. And we haven't been doing it. We've been saying we have, but based on the comments I hear from people, they're not seeing actual dollars being saved. There may be a part of an equation that really worked out nice, but just trying to fight for Texans. I mean, for instance, there are things that Republicans and Democrats agree on. They both parties don't want toll roads in some different reasons, but the idea they don't want toll roads. Well, let's give that to the people of Texas. Let's quit putting toll roads in our life, and they're a waste of money. I mean, we got big problems. We have Texas growing at the highest rate of all the states. Now, I heard somebody, they were telling us at one time at this one meeting, I think you were there with me.
1,000 people a week.
Yeah, we have 1,000 people, however, coming in. Well, do you know California is losing people?
Right.
They're building more roads, more roads than we are. So their population is growing, and they're building more roads than we are, and our population is growing. Well, we've got some problems to address. What are we spending money on? And what are we not focusing on to to help our infrastructure and small businesses operate. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, even the executive powers, making sure people can operate their business. I mean, this pandemic is unfortunate. People have died from it, but the survivability rate is 99.97%. That includes the nursing homes. That includes the false diagnosis people have been given. And it's unfortunate for anybody to die for any reason. But also, it's very unfortunate to shut down our small business. What makes Texas great and amazing, what makes America great and amazing, is we have a large middle class, small business owners. They can create a job, change their economic outlook forever just by being their own boss. We have to protect that.
That's right.
Even during a pandemic or something that's terrible, we have to protect them so they can operate their business how they see fit.
It's time to open Texas again. It really is.
Well, we'll see what happens with those bills and others as the session goes on. Again, thank you, both of you representatives, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you once again to both Representative Cason and Representative Slaton for joining us today. Well, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll try to go through there. It's going to be a long session. I will note that both the House and the Senate right now are adjourned until January 26th, so there's not going to be any business this next week. But once they get back, we expect to see Governor Greg Abbott lay out his priorities for the session, his emergency priorities. We expect to see committees appointed, and the process is really going to begin to get started. And so we're going to be following it every step of the way at TexasScorecard.com. But for right now, thank you for joining us on The Headline. I'm Brandon Waltons. Have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning into The Headline from Texas Scorecard. You can catch old episodes of the show as well as many of our other programming at TexasScorecard.com. And be sure to join us next Friday at 11 a.m. live right here on Facebook.